please go to justiceforoscargrant.com. Sign the petition and pass it on. Please call Alameda County District Attorney Nancy O'Malley at 510-272-6222. Demand that she charge Anthony Tony Peroni with felony murder.
And welcome to Love Never Fails Radio. We are in the studio today with a powerhouse group of women that are going to be talking about a very important subject, and that is the murder of Oscar Grant. We are going to hear from, first of all, Oscar Grant's mother. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Reverend Wanda Johnson for several years and watching her just walk forward in strength, in love, and in determination. She is, as her bio outlines, she's America's voice of compassion and hope for individuals who have lost loved ones due to violence. And for those of you who are listening and maybe don't know the story, of Oscar Grant's life, he was murdered on January 1st, 2009. An unarmed young man was shot and killed by local transit peace officer. And since then, Wanda, his mother, has made it her mission to work tirelessly to undo the negative stereotyping of at-risk youth and comfort grieving families. Also with me today, I have Elaine Brown. Elaine Brown is a former leader of the Black Panther Party, Minister of Information and Chairman. She's the author of A Taste of Power and the Condemnation of Little B, and that is an autobiography which was optioned in 2017 by Robbie Brenner Productions. And she is the executive director of Michael Lewis Legal Defense Committee, supporting the legal appeal of Lewis, aka Little B, who was arrested in 1997 in Atlanta, Georgia at the age of 13 for a murder that he did not commit and was convicted and sentenced as an adult to life in prison, where he remains. She is also the CEO of a nonprofit organization for Oakland and the World Enterprises, Inc. And she's got just a tremendous list of accomplishments here, all around the advocacy for youth, in particular Black youth that have been accused and or convicted of crimes which they did not commit and or murdered, as in the case of Oscar Grant. And also with us, I have Sister Beatrice X, aka Auntie B, who is the wife of Uncle Bobby Johnson and the aunt of Oscar Grant. And she is a member of the Nation of Islam. She has been involved with activism since the early age of 10. Sister Beatrice's first police terrorism activism case was at the age of 22 years old. She was part of this activism and protesting behind Saigon Pen, twice acquitted in the shooting of 2 San Diego police officers in a racially charged case that sharply exposed the divide between police and the Black community. And she's a community organizer and obviously very committed to her nephew, Oscar Grant, and his memory. And so we are here today to talk about some new developments in the case of Oscar Grant. And I wanted to just first start off and invite Reverend Wanda Johnson into the conversation to share with us, where are you today? It is a new year. It is January 2021. We have come through a horrific time and still are enduring with COVID-19 and a variety of other just really major challenges right now in our world. And yet, you have kept the light shining brightly on what has happened to your son. And I want to give you an opportunity to share where are you at, and what are you wanting people to know about your son and and his life.
So for those who may not know, I am the mother of Oscar Grant, who was killed January 1st, 2009 at the Fruitvale BART station in Oakland, California. His mother instructed him to take BART that night to go to San Francisco to watch the fireworks. And on his way back from San Francisco, the officers received a call that there was some kind of altercation on the train. And the officer who arrived at the station already had, I guess, in his mind that he was going to hurt someone on that night because of his erratic behavior when he first entered onto the platform. He didn't go onto the platform in order to de-escalate any situation if there was one occurring when he arrived. Since there was not one occurring when he arrived, there was not even a need necessary for him to even enter the platform with this taser out and using profanity throughout the train and down the platform. And so Oscar lost his life unnecessarily from that encounter with that officer. That officer did not physically shoot Oscar, but all of what the officer did led up to my son's death. From hitting Oscar, from pinning Oscar down on the ground, from putting his knee on Oscar's neck, all of those very things led up to my son's death. And from that, it took a while, Vanessa, for me to be able to regain my voice and to be able to talk about what happened with my son. But I've regained my voice, and my brother, Uncle Bobby, was speaking and going different places, him and Beatrice, all over the country, you know, letting people know what happened to Oscar. And so we have vowed to not let Oscar's name die. This society, when so many young men and women are killed by police, they expect us to yell and march for a couple days and then stop marching and yelling after those days are over. But we have made it a vow. For sure, I have made a vow. And I know that my brother and Beatrice and the rest of our family have made a vow that we're not going to stop tooting our horns until our society changes the tactics that it uses on our African-American young men. We're not going to stop talking about what happened with Oscar, because we're not going to let you forget it, because Oscar was killed unjustly. He deserves to be alive. He deserves to be seeing his daughter grow up, but yet that has not happened. So I'm here fighting for justice for my son until I can't fight any longer.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Sister Wanda. Sister Wanda, I just am so grateful that you have not, you have not given up. You have not backed down. You have been fighting and holding strong for your son. And as you know, I've had the pleasure of teaching your niece dance. And she was part of my dance team where my young lady was originally trafficked out of. And so I'm very close to her. And this has greatly hurt her as his cousin, and it has hurt the whole family. And so to see you continue on with the fight is very inspirational. And, I always just feel compelled to say that to you and to encourage you to keep on, and keep on. So we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to hear from Sister B. We're going to hear from Elaine. We're going to hear from the rest of the team here about, where we're at. What are we doing? And what are we able to support you with at this time? So we'll be right back. And thank you for listening to Love Never Fails Radio. And welcome back to Love Never Fails Radio. We again are in the studio with three women, compassionate and tenacious women that are asking for justice for Oscar and for other Black men, young men that are being murdered and not receiving the justice. The families that are not receiving the justice that they deserve and that they need to heal. And so we're going to hear from a couple more. So in our last segment, we heard from Oscar Grant's mother, Wanda Johnson, and Reverend Wanda Johnson, and she shared with us her heart. And I want to give an opportunity for Auntie B, Sister Beatrice X, to share her heart as well as Elaine, and just hear from both of you about what what is going on with this case, what needs to happen in this time, and even in your case, and maybe we'll start with you, Auntie B. How has this impacted you and your husband, Uncle Bobby? You guys are so loved by so many in the community, and here we just you just heard Wanda share about the loss of your nephew, and you began to cry. This is still hurts. This hasn't gone away, right? So
Right.
tell us where you're at.
Well, I wanted to say that I don't know why I'm tearing up like this, but I do know. But it's for my sister-in-law, because as she was speaking, I went back to 10 years ago, actually 11 years ago, and we were in Los Angeles together. We went up and down the highway together. But I just remember vividly when we were waiting for the verdict, although this had not been the first time we stayed together, along with, she had a couple of her good friends come on several occasions with her. And but this time doing the verdict, man, I mean, she said she didn't have her voice, but I just saw God working on her, because I actually experienced her, actually, what she did to even put her foot on the ground to get out the bed. So I think that's why I'm tearing up, because that brought that memory back to me, and that to see her standing so strong and so bold and having her voice back, when she said she had her voice, that really touched me, because I kind of experienced what it took for her to go through what God was taking her through to even get to that point. And now, so sky's the limit. She got it. She's like this. She's gone. And so I'm grateful for that. So that's probably why I'm tearing up. And I did not know Oscar, but at the time I had a 14-year-old son, and I had already been doing advocacy since I moved up here in 2000. And my first act here was I helped and lobbied for advocacy for foster care children, because at the time I was a director at 3 different homes. And when those children turned 18, they put their stuff in the bag. You may know this. They put their stuff in the bag and give them some money, some welfare is what it's called, AFDC, and give them health care, and with their stuff in the bag, and say, here, you go out there and make a life, even though for the first 18 years of your life, you've been in and out of foster care with no, and so that was like my first advocacy in the Bay Area. And so being in the Nation of Islam, we are always advocating for justice. And so when Oscar was, and then I was part of the Tookie Williams fight, as I was with Miss Barbara Becknall on the day that she bought the suit for Tookie Williams. And so this advocacy that was going on had been going on. And so when Oscar was murdered, I had a 14-year-old son named Akeem. His name is Akeem. And oh my God, I already knew, that could have been my son. That could be any of our sons. And that video, oh my goodness. And so something compelled me, even though the Nation of Islam, we were having meetings concerning around it, but something compelled me as a mother to continue this fight until the end. So, it was like I was in court every single day. So as this report comes out, I never missed one day in court. So, but it was something in me. I had to see this to the end for some reason. I don't know why God put that on me, you know. And I had my son, who was a freshman in high school. I think when the trial started, he probably was in the 10th grade. You know, God placed everything in place so he could be secure, so I could run up and down the highway to LA to stay and continue in this fight. My family supported me, you know, so that I could financially stay in this fight, so I could see this through the end. I just had to see this through the end. You know how I just had to see it through the end. And that was my passion for sacrificing to through the court and all that. As I look back, you know, I had to see this to the end. I wanted to make sure that this officer was held accountable. So we sat in court every day to listen to this. So this stuff that's coming out in this report that came out, it's not new news to Wanda. It's not new news to me or Uncle Bobby or Minister Sabur or those who sat in their courtroom. The difference is we knew it, but it wasn't on paper. Like the witnesses told what happened, but we didn't have this report to say, even when we went to the district attorney's office in 2011 after the court to say, hey, you said you was going to get Tony Peroni. We didn't have this paperwork, even though we knew everything that was in there, pretty much what happened to him. We didn't have the paperwork to say, here, no, you're going to do this. And so I think, yeah. So I think that's the difference. And everything in God's time. This is the time that God had for us to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And so everything in God's time. And so this is a continuation. Because some people say, why y'all fighting again? We're not fighting again. We never stop fighting. We're not fighting again. We're still fighting. It's not a new fight. It's a continuation of the Justice for Oscar Grant movement. It never stopped. Even after the verdict, when Oakland stopped, our people stopped. They didn't stop because Uncle Bobby didn't stop and we didn't stop, and we just kept going. Wanda didn't stop. It didn't stop, even though, and that's the duty of the family. And I just want to shout out Uncle Bobby because, like, I think Mr. Pete from Jeffrey Inner Circle, one time he said, everybody needs an Uncle Bobby because when every family needs an Uncle Bobby, because when it stopped, he didn't stop.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He didn't stop. It just kept going. He covered his sister. He held his sister down. And now his sister is up and they're working together. It's a team. Everybody working for one goal, and that's justice for Oscar Grant. It has nothing to do with nothing else. Let's get justice for Oscar Grant. And that's where my spirit is. That's where our spirit is. And, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready for the fight. Yeah. So I do believe that we will get justice for Oscar. And, you know, I do believe that this officer will be charged.
So thank you, Sister Auntie B. I definitely am appreciative of, you know, the commitment that you guys have brought to this. And I've seen it, you know, you have not stopped. And so it's not you fighting again, it's you continuing, right? So that's, you know, just it's really tiring and it's really hard, but it's, you know, that's what you do for family. And so, but I want to talk about this report, and I want to go to Elaine and talk a little bit about this report and what is, and maybe Elaine, I don't know if you're the right person to ask about it, but what is in the report. And we only have a few minutes left in this segment, and we'll come back to actually, why don't we go for a break? We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, and I want to talk about what is in this report that has sort of made it very clear about the, you know, what happened on that night. So we will, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, hear from Elaine, and also dig into this report. Thank you so much for listening to Love Never Fails Radio. And welcome back to Love Never Fails Radio. We are again in the studio with Wanda Johnson, Reverend Wanda Johnson, who is the mother of Oscar Grant, the aunt of Oscar Grant, Sister Beatrice X, and we also have Elaine Brown in the studio And Elaine has held a variety of roles as executive director, CEO, leading organizations and doing community activism and development for many years, bringing justice for young Black men and women that have been accused of various acts and also been experience violence themselves. And so I want to bring you into the discussion, Elaine, and hear from you either about this report or just, kind of what you see as kind of the thing that we need to take away here as we're talking about bringing justice for Oscar.
Right. Well, I appreciate it. And I certainly am honored to be on a program with Wanda Johnson and Beatrice X. I want to say, though, that we need to put this into context. This has not happened just to Oscar, but Oscar was an important piece in the history of our people. We have been getting killed by the police for a very long time. So we can't just pretend. This is not people just getting violence. This is police state murder of our people. This was something that, of course, as a former member of the Black Panther Party, I've been struggling against. I don't have to know Oscar because he is my son. So while I may not be in the family, we are all in this family because we are, as Black people and people who are living under these conditions for a very long time. I'm not even going to go back 400 years, just take it back to 1865 and forward. So we've all been struggling against police murder and brutality of our people for a long time. Now we need to get that straight because that's what happened to Oscar. This wasn't just a young man who got on a train and did nothing and got shot and killed. He was murdered. He was murdered by, BART is the Bay Area Rapid Transit. It's a transit district, but these police are armed and trained and have the same rights and privileges of regular police forces. So let's not get it twisted. They are armed and dangerous. We don't know why they're on the BART trains. You can get on Amtrak, so forth. So to contextualize this, the question is, what does justice look like? What does justice look like? The pain of Wanda Johnson can't be expressed I can't express it. I'm a mother, but I can't talk about that. So the question is, how do we as a community, what do we want to do? Now, what they knew then didn't get anybody. Meserly was one of the few cases in the history of all these murders of Black people in America by police. The case of Johannes Meserly, who shot Oscar in the back when he was being held down by Tony Peroni, that case is one of the few that actually went to trial as a criminal. But he was convicted only of involuntary manslaughter and only ended up doing something like 11 months in prison. The question is was that justice? Because we go, in the Black Panther Party, we used to say, well, how are you going to go to the police and report the police to the police? It's like kind of an absurdity, Mm-hmm. So the district attorney has a duty to represent the people, and the state has a duty. But these people are also employees of the state. So for all these years, while people knew what the facts were, they had not much ability to prove and to get the district attorney of Alameda County to actually go about doing her job, which she had plenty of information, but the people in the family and the others did not have proof. They had witnesses, they knew, they saw, but they didn't have the kind of proof. And the district attorney refused to prosecute this other cop that we've been talking about, whose name is Anthony Peroni, P-I-R-O-N-E, Peroni. This cop dragged Oscar off the train, forced Oscar onto the ground, smashed his face into the ground, caused his face to be cracked, had terrible wounds on the back of his head, brain injury, and then locked him down with his knee on his artery and his throat and his neck, which California just now put into effect a law. The police can no longer use that move. It is outlawed for police in the state of California. The same move that was enacted on George Floyd, cutting off the windpipe, cutting off the blood going to the brain. Oscar was down on the ground like a dog when the second cop is now coming in and shoots Oscar in the back. Now, Peroni did everything to lead up to this. If you and I go out to rob a bank and you're just sitting in the car and I go in and I rob the bank for both of us, but I shoot a bank teller or shoot somebody in the bank, you're going down with me for murder because you're involved in a felony, right? And so even though I was the person that pulled the trigger, you're going to take the same. Now, ordinarily, this would be the case, but the police have escaped this. But in this report called the Meyers Nave report, which is a law firm that the BART board paid for to do an independent investigation, came up with a conclusion and then hid it from 2009 to now. It was hidden. So the report that Sister Beatrice is speaking of is a report that was known by certain officials, certainly the BART officials, and probably the district attorney, though she denies it, that without even looking underneath all of the paperwork, the 100 and some pages of this report show Peroni everything I've just told you. There's documented. They have the documents. They interviewed. They have objective facts to show that Peroni was involved in numerous felonies, and therefore he's responsible for felony murder. And that's what we're here to talk about. So I don't want to just get too emotional and forget that we want justice. And that justice means we want to see Tony Peroni put into prison where he belongs. And that is the purpose of what we're doing now. I was not here in Oakland when Oscar was killed. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, actually Savannah, Georgia, which is neither here nor there because my life is not important in this scenario. I'm just making note of it. But the struggle for our people to get justice when these people are murdered, when they're murdered by the state itself. This is not some casual guy on the street. This is a trained cop, did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. A trained killer can kill with his bare hands, 250 pounds, brought everything he had onto Oscar Grant. And we don't have to look underneath any of that. We don't have to explain this or that. Oscar was unarmed. He was beaten up by this man. He was pummeled, put on the ground, and then shot in the back. Now, if you're not angry about it, you don't have to be anything, but you should be angry. Mm-hmm. We should be angry as a people that we are allowing our sons to be murdered, and we are sitting around crying, or as Sister Wanda said, we do a little protest for a couple of days, and then we go on back to whatever it is our lives are, because we have to say that Black Lives Matter. We can't just keep sloganizing. If it matters to us, then we got to get off the dime. In this case, we got to put Tony Peroni in prison. And we need Nancy O'Malley, the district attorney, to do her job and arrest this man and charge him with murder.
So I saw a post somewhere, perhaps it was the press release urging District Attorney O'Malley to press charges. Where does that stand, and where is she at on that? Maybe I'll pose that question to you, Wanda. I know that you've had some discussions with her. Where are you at with that?
So we're still waiting for the district attorney's office to come back to us with what they're going to do. We're waiting, and we've been waiting. We had a press conference in October, and at that time, interrupting our press conference, she said they were going to reopen the case. We're in January now, mm-hmm. and we still don't have an answer of, okay, the case is reopened. Let's hear you say you're going to charge him. That's what we're waiting for, her to come back and tell us to do the right thing. And the right thing is to charge him. Yes. The right thing would have been done 12 years ago when it first happened, when we went to court. It should have been done then. But that's because right. The state ran out of money and because they wanted to use him for a witness, they failed to charge him at that time. Okay, now we're here 12 years later, do what's right, and that is charge the officer for his part in killing my son.
Okay, well, there you have it. That is, now we know. I didn't know what the outcome was. I just saw the post that the case was being reopened.
Well, there's more. I think Sister Beatrice should speak to the question of what she's leading the campaign on a petition. So we need to know we're doing some stuff. If you don't mind my mentioning that. Sister
No worries. Let's take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we'll start with you, Sister Beatrice, to kind of take us into this campaign that you're running. and the ways in which you are raising awareness about what has occurred. So, and what you're asking for. So we will come right back, and thank you for listening to Love Never Fails Radio.
Okay, well done, ladies. One sec. Okay, Vanessa, you can start when you're ready.
Okay. And welcome back to Love Never Fails Radio. We are just having a discussion. This is it's really tough, a lot of emotions running here, just thinking about that night 12 years ago. And I'll share my own personal story. My son, who's 25 now, and I were at a gathering that night. And we were very close to the family, to Jack and Nigel, who were with Oscar that night. And we're very close with their parents, Big Jack and Yolanda. And I too, like you said, Elaine, like you said, Sister Beatrice, that could have been my son. My son could have been out with them that night. And I think, when we look at it from that lens, and we recognize that we are, Oscar Grant is our son. He is, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Wanda, but he could have been any of our sons. And to know that he was harmed in that way, and not everybody who was responsible was held accountable, is it's hard to hear. It's upsetting. And so I'm just acknowledging how I'm feeling about it even now, thinking back to that moment. And so there's a campaign that's happening. And I think Sister Beatrice, you want to share with us what are you doing? How can people support what you're doing to bring justice? You're on mute.
Thank you. I also want to share that there's a coalition. So where I have this assignment for the petition, there's a coalition that's together to work to make this happen. And so on my part, with the petition, we have a petition that we went through the grassroots, which is John King and Attorney Meyers petition that's been put out. And it's only been out about a week, and we're already at 50,000, close to 50,000. And we want 1 million, which I feel like we will get. And you can sign this petition. I can put it in the chat before we leave, but we want everyone to sign this petition, because we want to put these petitions in Nancy O'Malley's hand. Because the real question is, what's the delay? I don't know what else do we need to be talking to her about or saying, but what's the delay? 12 years ago, he should have been charged. So why is it taking so long? Like Wanda said, what's the problem? 12 years ago, he should have been charged. So why can't he be charged like today? So we need a mass movement of demanding that he be charged today. You can call the office. Call her office. Bombard the office with calls. Tell them to get him off the streets. This is a dangerous man. He is a dangerous man who helped commit murder, and he's been walking around, not to mention he's been in the military. He went back to the military after this, because in the military, who knows, maybe he could just kill at will. We got somebody whose mind is like that, that's walking the streets and may be with another gun on his side. How about that? How about he may be an officer in a city near or state near you? So we compel everyone to please sign this petition, pass it on to your friends, your family. We have a drive. We need 1 million signatures. Let's get 1 million signatures so that we can get this officer charged, arrested, convicted, and sent to prison.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, is this officer still actively on the force there in Oakland, or I'm sorry, at BART, or is he moved into another role?
He's not in BART. He did, after all that, he really had the nerve to go back and try to get his job back. And BART say they didn't give him his job back, but they're not telling the whole truth about it. The reason why he didn't get his job back is because there was an investigation of fraud for unemployment fraud. So they didn't just outright fire him because of what happened to Oscar. They try to say it in a way like that, but it really came down to a fraud case that was against him. And he's such a coward that he actually put it on his wife, and his wife caught the blame for that fraud case. But when we sat, if Wanda can bear witness, that when we sat with Bart, we asked him, was he going to get his job back? And they started telling us about the union and all this kind of stuff. But what they said is, but we do have this fraud case. Am I right, Wanda?
Okay.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's they didn't fire him because he did that to Oscar. And I would not let them say that. And I will not let them say that. He got fired because of the fraud case for the unemployment. But we don't let Bart off the hook for that, because they certainly told us that when we were saying, why can't you just charge him now? And they started telling us about the union and all this and how they do this, and they got a hearing with the union, and he has lawyers that's saying this. So it wasn't like they fired him because of that. And that's sad. We don't know where he is. We don't know if he has a gun. We don't know that, but we know that he needs to be off the streets.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for filling in, the blanks, because I didn't know about all of the evidence that was summarized and, there in the report. And is that report public information? Can anybody go and access the report that
all you have to do is go online and look up the word Meyers, Meyers, Nave, Nave, report about Oscar Grant. It was fought for. Various people put in the Freedom of Information Act. It took all these years for them to expose it. That part of the report is published. That's how we got it. Nobody gave us anything. Nobody gave us anything. But I want to mention, if everyone wouldn't mind, just quickly, in addition to the petition that Sister Beatrice speaks about, which is a demand to Nancy O'Malley to charge Tony Peroni with felony murder of Oscar Grant, we have gotten the BART board to actually support our claim, and they're going to vote on a resolution on the 14th of January, making that demand directly to Nancy O'Malley, led by Latifah Simon, a member of the BART board. So we have a lot of coming up more and more now that this information is exposed. Exactly. We are able to tell people what they were trying to tell people for the last 10 years or so, 10, 11 years, but we now have some evidence. And so Nancy O'Malley can't get around the fact that she's, whatever her excuses have been, we now have the evidence for her. Here it is. It's in the report that BART commissioned not more than months after Oscar was murdered. And he was murdered. I mean, and that's the other part we have to know and call it like it is, as opposed to just saying, he was shot. He was murdered. He was murdered by the police.
Right. And can I just say on that about the report? They didn't just give us the report. Families, no. They didn't. Families?
Oh, I'm just sorry. Excuse me.
Oh, they didn't just give us the report. There was a lot of fight that went into there. Matter of fact, Wanda spoke in Sacramento. Me and Uncle Bobby, our Families United for Justice, was a sponsor of a bill. They didn't just give us that report. Families who lost loved ones, we had to go up and down to Sacramento. We had to fight the police. We had to fight for SB 1421 in order to get that information. And then when it went into law, the police association, they decided to file lawsuits, so we could not get that information. So the information just wasn't given. That was fought for too. So we want to make clear that everything in this fight to hold police accountable, you got to fight for it. They're not giving us anything.
There you go. We are in the know now. We have the report. It has been provided. It has been fought for. And again, we encourage you to take a look at the report and understand. It sounds like it's pretty elaborate, 100 or 100 plus pages, but there are some pointed details that need to be looked at. When we come back, we're going to talk about, we'll remind you where the report can be accessed, how you can get in touch with these women to find out about the campaign, the coalition, and the petition, and ask questions, become informed. It is so important that we make sure that we are in the know about what is going on in each of these situations. So we'll be right back, and thank you for listening to Love Never Fails Radio. And welcome back to Love Never Fails Radio. We again have been speaking with the mother of Oscar Grant, Wanda Johnson, the aunt of Oscar Grant, Sister Beatrice X, and Elaine Brown, who is a community activist and just really advocating around this new case that has this new potential, an opening of a case against an officer that was a participant in the murder of Oscar Grant. And we are talking about this, what occurred here on January 1st, 2009. Been sort of talking about it from a lot of different angles. And we want to encourage you to get educated about what occurred based on this independent study that was done and this report that was published. And I want to ask, who knows where the link is? Is it Sister Beatrice, where the report can be accessed? Oh, it was Elaine. Elaine, if you could repeat again, they do a search on Google and they can pull up the report through that search, correct?
Right. Well, they can pull up the report, but I think, Sister Beatrice, do we have a link that we can, I don't have the words, like I don't have the exact link information, or is there something we can give to the radio audience so they can link into getting the petition?
The report.
Yeah.
No, the report is fine, but they need to sign the petition.
Yeah, I have Uncle Bobby go and send it to Vanessa. And Vanessa,
Okay.
if you can put it inside of there, because I don't know how to transfer it right now while I'm on here. But Uncle Bobby will put it in right now as we speak. So please sign it, and then get you a team, and y'all sign it, and then they get a team and they sign it. Because this is so important, because we are going to get this officer charged, but justice for one is justice for all. So that's what we're trying to get everybody. Is justice for one is justice for all. We're going to get this officer charged, and it's not going to stop there, because all officers need to be held accountable. And that's what we want, police officers held accountable. Everyone in society, especially Black people, are held accountable. Why can't we as a community and as a society and as taxpayers come together?
It looks like we may have lost Sister Beatrice there, but she is talking about accountability, and absolutely, definitely, as you all know, I am a pastor. Reverend Wanda is also a pastor. This is, God is a God of justice, and we are not going to be supporters of murder, and so we need accountability across the board. And we need,
I want to give you the Grassroots Law Group. I believe that's it. Is that right, Sister Beatrice? Grassroots Law Group?
I think they're having some internet problems. So I just
wanted to put that out there because you can just quickly Google Grassroots Law Group, and Oscar Grant, and that petition will petition for Oscar regarding Oscar Grant, and you can find it, because I don't want to have your audience go away and we lose the opportunity to have people be able to participate. They can always read the Meyers Nave report, but can they do this one thing? And that's a small thing, and that is to sign that petition.
Yes. So Bobby just sent it to me, and it's grassrootslaw.org, and there you will find a petition that you can sign for Oscar Grant. So it's
it's grassrootslaw.org.
Grassrootslaw.org. Exactly.
Can you hear me now? Are we back? Oh, I just wanted to say, please sign the petition. And we're really doing good now. So we are moving and we're moving and we're moving. So let's keep it moving, because we are getting signatures, but we need all your signatures. If you haven't signed it, everyone, to me, if you ask me, everybody on the planet should sign it. So, it doesn't matter if you're in California, wherever you are, sign the petition so we can get this officer charged. And the question is, what's the delay? Why isn't he charged? That's the same thing with Johannes Mesley years ago.
Yeah. Yes. So hopefully there will be some movement on this. Reverend Wanda, we are, I'm lifting you up in my prayers, and the family want you to know that we love you. We're with you. And again, if I encourage everyone who's listening, go and look at the report for yourself. Don't just brush this off as, oh, well, it was already dealt with. No, go and look at the report and see about others that were involved in the act and what needs to be done. And then, after you get a chance to review that, go to grassrootslaw.org to sign the petition. We hope that you are having a beautiful start to your year. And we know that this has just been a real challenging time for many of you. And yet at the same time, we also know that we are not alone, that we have each other, and that we are absolutely lifting each other up in prayer. And so with that, I want to just remind you, if you haven't heard it before, or if you need to hear it again, that you are loved.
Please go to justiceforoscargrant.com, sign the petition, and pass it on. Please call Alameda County District Attorney Nancy O'Malley at 510-272-6222. Demand that she charge Anthony Tony Peroni with felony murder.